Okay, cool. Well, I'm just gonna assume that it's taking them a second, which is fine. Um, but what you see up on the screen right now, that is our schedule. Welcome, Elizabeth. Um, it is, cram packed. Um, it's gonna be so much fun though, guys. So much fun. So today I posted all of the assignments for this upcoming week on Google Classroom. Um, so today we're going to go through the function and algebra mock packet. I actually just impromptu changed a lot of this morning. I was going to have us do the packet together, and then I was going to do the mock as a YouTube video and make you guys watch it. But I think it's better to spend more time on this and let y'all, if you want to do extra work, you can, but I'm going to focus on the stuff that I think is most important and spend more time on it rather than trying to cover everything and cram it all in. So we're going to do the mock packet today during class. Hopefully we'll get through it. If we don't, you'll finish it on your own. But then there's also an extra packet, and that's I'd like you to just read through it. I don't need you to attempt every problem. I just want to recognize all of the vocabulary, or if there's a question that just seems like super difficult and you'd like to see it, then you'll submit that through Remind, and I'll do a YouTube video on all the problems that you guys want to see. Okay? If that means that you guys want to see every problem, then I hope that you don't, but I would do a video of it. But I don't think you guys will need that. But there are some questions in there that I think are pretty difficult. And we'll do the same thing for calculus on Wednesday. Friday, we won't be having class, but I'll be near my computer-ish enough to be available for questions. Were all of you able to do the other mock exams over break? Let me ask that a different way. Was anybody unable to do the mock exams? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Was anybody unable to mark them, to grade them?
I mean, I graded it. The mark scheme, I don't like it. It's really weird to me. It's complicated. So like, I kind of marked it like you did, but
yeah. I was a little confused with grading it. I finished them. There was on the paper too, I didn't finish the last page in time, but as far as grading, I don't know. I didn't finish grading everything.
It is really weird. I think I might try to post one of the explanations of the mark scheme, but it doesn't really help. The only way you get it more the more you do it. It is really weird what everything means, but I just wanted y'all to have an idea of potentially where you'd be sitting with marks. If you guys, I'll be available during lunch if you want to come in and talk about it and figure out if you have any questions. But otherwise, what I'd like you to do is after class today, I'd like you to take, make a PDF scan of yours with it marked and upload it on Google Classroom, okay? Again, it's not a grade, it is I want to see that you did it and you put effort into it grade.
Yeah, for some of the things I got wrong, I just X'd it out. I didn't even go through the method and stuff, but okay.
That's fine.
You said you wanted the marks that we got?
Yeah. Yes.
Can I finish attempting to grade and then upload them?
Yes. Sooner rather than later, though. Okay, cool. So the following, I know it's your Easter break, and I really hate taking that away from you guys. And I tried to make it as little work as possible. But I just kind of have to do it. I really wish that it wasn't the case. But over Easter break, you have another one that will be over what we're covering this week. There's a paper 1 and a paper 2. There are 2 of them of each. You don't have to do both, but you can if you want to. Okay, so I made them a little bit shorter than a current, like normally they're 90 marks, and I think I've made both of them like 60 marks, so it should only take you an hour instead of an hour and a half. And you'll mark them as well. When you come back that following Monday and Wednesday, you'll have a mock paper 1, which is no calculator, and then on Wednesday you'll have a mock paper 2, which is with the calculator. And that'll be like that's what I'm basing a lot of your predicted grade off of. So all of this stuff leading up to that is to help you raise your predicted grade as high as possible. Okay. All right, so if you guys want to pull up your function in algebra mock, and looking at that first page, does anybody have any questions? Nobody has any questions?
I don't think so.
Wait, sorry, one more time, just to clarify, this is the functions in algebra. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, looking at the first question, do you guys know what you would need to do when it says that the function would only have 1 0?
Isn't that when you set like, oh, I can't remember the words, everything underneath the square root equal to, it's like positive if it has 2 roots and negative if it has 1.
Yeah, you can use the discriminant. If you don't remember the discriminant, what's something else you can do? I know it's like a complicated way to ask.
I mean, if it, when you set it equal to 0.
You can graph it.
This one's a no graphing calculator question. So what I would be looking for this one, if you don't remember about the discriminant, one thing that you could think of is if it only has 1 0, then that means your vertex is the thing that's hitting the x-axis. So you could put it in vertex form and make your x coordinate, your y coordinate 0. That's one way. Or you could put it into factored form, because you know that both of them are going to be, both of the roots are basically going to be the same. So if you have x minus a times x minus a, and you could multiply it out and then solve the equation, it would give you a system of equations to solve for k. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. All right, no other questions on this first page?
Let me read over it really quickly.
Yeah, you guys have a couple seconds. Yeah.
Could you do number 5, please?
Yeah, okay. So for this one, it's simultaneous equations. So this is a system of equations problem. So what I started with is if we have, we can rewrite this. The first one becomes the natural log of x plus 2 natural log y is equal to 8. And then if you rewrote the second equation, it would be natural log x plus natural log of y equals 6. And then I don't know which one I solved. I solved the first one for natural log of x. So when you solve the first equation for natural log of x, you get that the natural log of x is equal to 8 minus 2 natural log y. And then I plugged that in. I used substitution, so I plugged it into the other equation. So you get 2 times 8 minus 2 natural log of y plus natural log of y is equal to 6. And then you do algebra, like you just multiply everything and you end up getting that y is equal to e to the 10 thirds. Once you find out what y is, you plug it back into the equation to figure out what x is. And you end up getting, you can plug it into either equation, but you end up getting that x is equal to e to the 4 thirds.
Thank you.
Okay. Sounds like we're okay. So page 2, any questions?
Can you go over what the equation is for interest? I don't know if we learned it in your class. I thought there was something complex. It might just be like
there are a couple different ones that you could use in theory, like there are different types of interest. But for this one, you're gonna have that the amount is equal to the principal, which is your initial payment, times 1 plus the interest, raised to the time. This is called simple interest, and I think that's the only one that they use. I don't know if it's on your formula sheet or not. But this formula, if you were to distribute it, the principal, this would be the principal plus the interest on the principal over time. So, for example, for 3A, what would the amount be in the account after 1 year? The formula, the 2,000 is what was already in the account. That's our principal. So it would be 2,000 times 1 plus our interest rate, because it's a bank account that is earning money, not something that is losing money over time. Like you might have a car depreciating value, that would be minus a rate, but this is increasing value. So 3.5% would be 0.035 raised to the time. So depending on A1 or A2, that would be to the first power or to the fifth power.
And is this on our formula booklet?
I'm trying to look it up at the same time on my laptop. Let me see. see, in algebra, no, it is not. Something you can try if, I don't know if this is like too many steps. If you feel like memorizing a formula is really difficult, for this one, for the first year, I feel like it's pretty easy to figure out what it would be. Like even if you didn't have this formula, like you're gonna have $2,000 in the bank account and you have your interest rate, which would be multiplying times your interest rate. That's the same thing as the thing above it for just the first year. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you have both of the points, your calculator, you know how you did exponential regressions? You could find the equation using exponential regression. But I think the formula isn't too bad to remember. And then the next year would be this same thing plus 2,000 times 0.035. Memorizing the formula is easier because when you get into things where it's like how much money will be in the bank account after 500 years, it's like, okay, I don't really want to sit there and do this 500 times. Okay, anybody else? Page 2.
Wait, can we have a quick refresher on all those weird symbols in number 4? Like, I know there's the funny looking E and the funny looking R, but there's also like a Z or something.
You said in number 4. Oh, okay. Yes, sorry. The funny looking E is element. So that means it's they are a part of, they are an element, and then the funny looking R is real numbers. So you have real numbers, N, the funny looking N is natural numbers. So natural numbers are your counting numbers. So that doesn't include 0. So it's just 1, 2, 3, 4. You have Z, which is integers. So that could be negative or positive. So this would be -1, 0, 1, so on and so forth, but they're all whole numbers. Then Q is rational numbers. So the funny looking Q is rational numbers, which includes fractions, anything that can be written as a fraction or a decimal as well, positive or negative. And then real numbers is all real numbers. Real numbers can be anything other than imaginary numbers. These can also, you could have like Q plus, and that's only the positive ones, or Z negative, and that's only the negative ones. Okay, anybody else?
Is Q just fractions, or is it everything including fractions?
Everything including fractions. So you could have 1/4, 0, 1. That's also decimals that could be written as a fraction, obviously. So this is 0.25. So on and so forth. But things that wouldn't be considered, things that we add in real numbers would be things like pi or E, or decimals that go on just a really long time. Like technically that can be written as a fraction, but not a very nice one. Okay. Anything else on page 2? I feel like functions in algebra, you all know how to do it. It's more a question of just like refreshing your memory almost, just because it's been a longer time since you've done some of this.
For number 4C, when you do like h of g of x, you just put it in, like you just plug it in.
Yes, but you would plug in g for every x in h. So the way I think of it is it's like h of x, but then it also has h of g of x. And so this x and this g of x are in the same place. So that means you need to put g of x in every time you see an x in h of x, meaning we have the function, it goes 8x over 2x plus 3. And then so every time I see an x, I'm going to put in the whole function of g of x, which was 2x plus k. Okay, page 3.
Number 4 on page 3.
Like the fourth problem?
Yeah, like evaluate, and then the weird z on the right page. Yeah. No.
No.
My computer's frozen.
For inverse functions, you just put, is that the one where you put all the x's as y's?
Yes, and then you resolve the equation.
When they ask to describe a transformation, how much detail are they looking for? And like, how do you write that?
I don't think they would take off. That's a great question. I don't think they would take off any points. But I recently discovered that IB Math uses they use vectors to describe transformations. But in my grading stuff, I don't think you would get any points marked off. So here for this one, 2A would normally, I would write a horizontal shift left 2 units. Like that's what I would write. But a lot of the mark schemes have a transformation by vector -2, 0. So, but I feel like you don't use that very often. Like you're not, that's a very European thing, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But I think IB, and I know so I'm the one grading these at least, I would accept horizontal shift left 2 units. But to answer your question, any transformation that happens, you should give it. Okay, anybody else?
Can we look at 2B, the second one?
Sure. So sketch on this same diagram the graphs of y equals the natural log of x plus 2, and the natural log of x squared plus x to the fourth plus 4. So for this one, let's see. So a lot of it, what you're trying to do is think about what, okay, sorry, let me slow down. I think of this as y equals natural log of x, or sorry, this can be f, goodness gracious. If this is f of x, then natural log of x plus 2 is the same thing as f of x plus 2. The reason why I took this step is because, do you guys know what the graph of natural log of x looks like?
I mean, wouldn't you just look at the graph because it shows natural log of x? Is that,
No.
does it say natural
No.
log? I can't read it. The red
Yes,
line?
it says natural log, but we don't have the graph of natural log of x.
Okay.
And this is a no graphing calculator question.
Is that like exponential decay?
Not quite. So natural log of x is the inverse of e to the x. So if you want to think of the graph of e to the x, it looks something like this. So if you were to create the inverse of this function, swapping the y's and the x's, if that helps you to go through those steps, it would look something like this. It says to clearly mark the asymptotes. So the asymptote here, does anybody know what it would be?
-2.
Yeah. How did you know that?
Because it's x
Thomas?
plus 2.
Yeah, okay. Yes, because it's plus 2. For the yellow function, for your e to the x, normally your asymptote would be at 0, which means that normally your vertical asymptote, instead of a horizontal asymptote, normally your vertical asymptote for the green function would be at 0, but we shifted left 2 units. Normally, it would intersect at e. Does it say to mark? Yeah, x-intercepts. So this x-intercept here, does anybody know what that one would be? Sorry, it like normally on this yellow function, your y-intercept, what's any exponential's y-intercept before it's been transformed?
0. Right? Oh, never mind.
It's always going to be 1. So that's before it's been transformed. So normally our blue dot, our x-intercept would be at 1, but we shifted it left 2 units. So what would my intercept
-1?
be? -1, 0. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, any other questions on that page? Okay, what about page 4?
The first number 4, the evaluate.
I don't have that one on my page
Okay.
4. Are you on the function in algebra
Oh
mock?
no, I'm not. It's weird. Okay. Miss Thompson, the formula or the formulas for arithmetic and geometric sequences, those are all on the those are all provided, right?
Yes. They give you the nth term, the sum, and the infinite sum of a geometric sequence. And then they give you nth term and sum for arithmetic. So yes. It's a lot of just plug and chug on that page.
Could we go for number 2?
Yes. So for the first term in the sequence, you want to figure out which one is going to be less than, less than 10 to the negative 6. So 10 to the negative 6 is 0.12341, which is the same thing as 1 over 100,000. So really you're trying to figure out when 3n would be greater than 100,000. The reason why greater than 100,000 is because you want it to be, the fraction to be smaller than, less than the fraction of 1 over 100,000. So that means you need your denominator to be greater. So 3n greater than 100,000. Which, in case you're curious, is 13. We all good?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. 3 on that page is a little bit funky. I think it's very doable. It's just not as direct as the other ones, but that is the type of question that I would anticipate seeing on the exam, if that makes sense. Just like the approach of that problem being less than just, I mean, it's still plugging into equations, but it's not just as direct as plugging in numbers.
Can we go over how you would approach that?
Yeah, sure. So what it says is that the 5th term is equal to 3 times the 2nd term. So u5 is equal to 3u2. And really, we're just going to turn this into systems of equations because what I also know is that if this is true, then u2 plus a common difference would give me my u3. Plus another common difference would give me my u4. Plus another common difference would give me my u5 or my 5th term, which is equal to 3u2. Okay, so then I get that 3 times the common difference is equal to 2 times the 2nd term. Does that make sense? Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. So then you end up getting that the common difference is equal to 2/3 times the 2nd term. Okay, So after that, you can use the common difference between those to figure out your first term, because that's your common difference. And then your first term would be equal to U2 minus your common difference, which is 2/3 U2, because you're just going backwards instead. So then you just get that U1 is equal to 1/3 U2. And then it wants the ratio of common difference to first term. So you would divide them and your U2s would cancel. And you end up getting 2/3 divided by 1/3, which is equal to 2.
For the next page, can you briefly go over binomial expansion?
Yeah, so your binomial theorem is that a plus b to the n is equal to a to the n plus n take 1 a to the n minus 1 times b plus n to the r so that's your binomial theorem, which I know seems really complicated, but it's not actually that bad. We just did a review of the binomial coefficient because we were talking about it with Pascal's triangle and whatnot, but also n take r is equal to n factorial over r factorial times n minus r factorial. So really what we're looking at, depending on the question, it says find the coefficient of x to the 5th in the expansion of 2 minus x to the 12th. So really you're just plugging in what you need to know. If I'm looking for the thing with x to the 5th, that means I'm going to look for where it has this part here, because my b would be my x to the 5th. So I would plug in 5 for r.
And you would do it just for the part that you boxed in?
Yes. It's been a hot minute for me for binomial expansions. So the first one, if you're wanting to check your answer, that first one is -101,376. Okay. Anybody else?
How would you do number 3?
That is a great question. Let me read it.
By or otherwise, do they mean like Pascal's triangle?
Yes. Or some other method is really, yeah. Pascal's triangle is one of them. Express a to the 5th power. So this would be 2 minus square root 2 to the 5th power. And then you would just use your formula. So you would plug in your 2 as a and your negative square root 2 is b. Find the expansion. And then when you simplify it, you would have it. The last step of in the form m plus n square root 2 is just the simplifying part of it, of combining like terms. So it ends up becoming 232 minus 164 square root 2. I didn't write down my work for this one, I'm sorry. I just wrote down the answer. But this one is just plugging it into the formula and simplifying.
Okay. I didn't really read it through. I just looked at it and there were more variables.
More letters than normal, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so what I would encourage you to do is I'm going to let you guys work. I'm not collecting this for a grade, and I say that hesitantly because I don't want you to just totally blow it off. But there is a question pretty much on every single standard in this mock for functions in algebra. So I think it's worth doing. At the very least, making sure you read through the problem all the way and think through. I'm not even saying you have to put pencil to paper, but think through what you would do. And if you get stuck, I recommend trying to sit down and actually do it, like research it. If you need to email me, that's fine. But I think it's worthwhile to do it because I can't really show bias in your predicted grades. Like, it's just going to have to be graded. There's no remediation. There's no anything else. I can't help you. And that kind of sucks. I mean, you wouldn't have gotten help from me anyway on your exams, but you would have had a little bit more time to prepare for them. And that's not y'all's fault, but that's just kind of the way it is, though, too.
Do you recommend doing the review packet or the mock, like go through the mock that we just did?
Since we didn't go through all the questions in the mock, I would go through the mock, but I think it's worth reading the other packet as well, though. You don't have to. I would, if it were me, if I were in your shoes, even though it's work, I know. If I were you, I would do this entire mock, if it were me. And then I would read the other one.
Which other one are you referring to?
There's a function in algebra review packet as well.
Okay, so read through that one and then like do the one that we just went over, kind of. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not grading it. So when I say do it, if looking at like for example, on the first page, number 1A, the perimeter of a square, I know that that's adding all the sides. I don't need you to write down x plus x plus x plus x equals 4x. I don't need you to do that. But as you keep reading that one, I can do that in my head and just say, yeah, I know how to find the perimeter of the square. I'd add all the 4 sides. How do I find the perimeter of the circle? That's 2 pi r. My r is y, so that's 2 pi y. Like, I'm able to do that pretty quickly without ever putting pencil to paper and taking up a whole lot of time. But the next one, 2 shapes are made out of a piece of wire that total 8 centimeters. Find an expression for x in terms of y. That's a couple extra steps, but if the shapes are made out of wire, then that's the perimeter. So really, I'm just adding the 2 perimeters and setting it equal to 8 and then solving. I know how to solve an equation. I just need to talk through the steps of doing it. Does that make sense? But like some of the questions, like even in my notebook, like I did this entire mock, I did the entire review packet over spring break. There were questions where I had to write down a lot more work than others. Like 4D, if the total area of the 2 shapes is the smallest possible, what percentage of the wire is used for the circle? Like that took me a little while longer anyway. I actually had to put pencil to paper. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I really don't want to. I know that everybody is crunching down on you, and I'm trying to minimize it as much as possible. But y'all really did get the short end of the stick in the math department, and I've tried to catch you guys up as much as possible, but it's a lot, and I had a lot of time budgeted for you guys. We were going to be done early, and then I lost a week and a half. So I don't want to overwhelm you with too much work. Like, I don't want to get it to the point where you can't look at math because you're just so tired of doing it. But I think you guys also need the practice, because based off of some of your peers, even how easy it is to forget a lot of this stuff that feels really easy. So I think it's worth reading through them at the very least. Does anybody have any questions about that or assignments for the rest of the week so far?
Not for the rest of the week, but for like our actual mocks, are we gonna like print those out beforehand? Will we just see them on the screen and write down our stuff and scan them into you? How is that working?
You're gonna have to take them in front of me. So I'm gonna do that was a great question, Julia. Does anybody not have access to a printer? Okay, then you'll print it out, but you'll just sit in front of your computer while you take it though on Zoom. I think Mr. Jewett said something about moderating, like just to make sure. So I think we might be doing that. I know I'm using part of DP Core on Monday. And then one will run into your lunch, but then he's giving you part of DP Core to then eat lunch. So make sure you eat breakfast next Wednesday. Yeah.
Great.
Okay. So you'll print them out. I'll have them posted. Does everybody have immediate access to a printer? Like, if I posted it at 8 in the morning, could y'all have it printed by 8:30?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Just making sure nobody's using like their parents' work printer or something like that. Okay. Then that's probably what I'll do. Because I trust you guys, but it is just your IB exam. Okay. If y'all don't have any other questions, then I'm gonna let y'all work / take a breather post spring break. Did anybody do anything fun over spring break? I mean, I know you're quarantined, but even so, any?
I had movie nights with some friends from CSU.
Oh, that's fun.
It is a weekly thing, so it's gonna be awesome.
Okay, then make sure that sometime, hopefully soon today, if you need other time, just message me on Remind, but otherwise make sure you post, you scan your last mocks and send them to
Do you
me.
want that via Google Classroom or Remind, or how would you do that?
Google Classroom, if you, the assignment on Google Classroom, you can just submit next to whatever the name of that one was, circles, vectors, and statistics
Great.
papers. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, then welcome back to school. And good luck with the rest of the week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.